The void, usually a tapestry of silent, distant stars, roared with a palpable bass-heavy hum. 800 vessels, drawn from across the Cathar Mandate's vast dominion, formed a predatory crescent, its metallic points aimed directly at the shimmering, sapphire sphere of Earth. At their heart, the Grand Arbiter, a vessel so immense its shadow could eclipse a moon, pulsed with the collective might of a dozen conquered systems. On the Grand Arbiter's command deck, High Arbitrator Xylos surveyed the tactical projections with a smug satisfaction that rippled through his multi-jointed carapace. His primary optics, dark and multifaceted, focused on the projected trajectory. Report, Tactician Vrix, Xylos' voice, a resonant, gravelly rumble, echoed across the bridge. The bridge crew, a mix of the heavy-plated Cathar, the shimmering Viridian, and the crude, utilitarian Chronos, worked with quiet, efficient trepidation. Their apprehension of the High Arbitrator was a greater motivator than any imperial decree. Tactician Vrix, a lithe Viridian with 8 delicate manipulators hovering over a holographic console, clicked a rapid acknowledgement. All pre-jump protocols completed, High Arbitrator. The subjugation of Sol 3 is estimated to conclude within 48 standard rotations. Human resistance is anticipated to be negligible. Our deep space probes indicate their spacefaring capabilities are rudimentary, their orbital defenses virtually non-existent. Their homeworld is ripe for resource extraction. A low, guttural chortle emanated from High Arbitrator Xylos. Excellent! This humanity poses no true threat, a fledgling species barely 2 centuries removed from their high-gravity homeworld. Their planetary resources are ready for harvesting, their population ripe for relocation. Earth will serve as a stark reminder to any who believe they can defy the mandate. He stretched, his chitinous plates groaning. This was a mere formality, a minor expansion before greater conquests. The humans were a footnote, a soft target for a fleet honed by centuries of galactic domination. Suddenly, a series of urgent chirps erupted from the main sensor station. The Viridian sensor technician, Flicker, a young, nervous creature, flinched, its crystalline antennae twitching erratically. High Arbitrator, and an energy signature, unidentified contact deep within the Sol system. It just appeared. Xylos' multifaceted eyes narrowed. Appeared. Be precise, technician. I tolerate no imprecision. Flicker's voice, usually a rapid series of clicks and whistles, was now a strained whimper. Energy signature is human, High Arbitrator, but it's unlike any human vessel in our intelligence archives. Stealth profile is impossible. No residual warp drive signature, no temporal distortion. It's as if it simply materialized from the void itself. And its position, directly between us and their homeworld. Tactician Vrix scoffed. Preposterous. A single human craft. Their ships are little more than glorified atmospheric transports. It must be a sensor ghost or a misidentification. Their records show nothing beyond primitive sublight explorers. No, Tactician. Flicker insisted, its slender manipulators flying across its console, double-checking readings. The profile is stable. Small, yes, but the energy output is escalating. Rapidly. And its trajectory, it's moving towards the fleet with impossible acceleration. High Arbitrator Xylos leaned closer to the main display. A single, insignificant speck flickered at the very center of his colossal fleet's projection. One speck. Against 800. A new wave of amusement, tinged with a flicker of irritation at the technician's dramatics, washed over him. Are they truly so desperate? One vessel, perhaps a scout, foolishly strayed from its patrol, send a vanguard squadron. 10 heavy assault cruisers should be sufficient to neutralize this irritant. 3 light minutes away, orbiting Earth like a silent, protective guardian. The United Earth Federation's orbital defense platform, Aegis 7, hung in the Inkai blackness. Its surface, usually a shimmering camouflage against the starfield, was now bathed in the stark, urgent glow of battle readiness. No lights blazed from its hull, no engines flared, no emissions detectable by conventional means. It was a silhouette carved from shadow, a predatory whisper in the cosmic void, and at its heart, a single audacious vessel, the UES Sentinel Prime, prepared for the impossible. Inside the Sentinel Prime's command bridge, the air was a study in controlled tension, thick with the scent of ozone and concentrated effort. Admiral Jian Lai, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, watched the main view screen. It depicted the alien armada, a swirling tempest of metallic behemoths closing in on Earth. Her eyes, keen and intelligent, missed nothing. She was a veteran, forged in 100 simulations and a dozen border skirmishes, yet nothing prepared her for this. 800 warships, against what effectively amounted to one status, Ensign Eris. Admiral Lai's voice was a low, even tone, a calm anchor in the storm of their situation. Ensign Eris, a slender woman with striking cobalt eyes and a precise braid of dark hair, turned from her sensor station. Her fingers danced across haptic controls. 814 confirmed contacts, Admiral. 17 distinct species energy signatures. Their primary objective remains Earth. Estimated planetary arrival in 47 rotations, 23 cycles. Her voice was steady, but a faint tremor betrayed the immense pressure. Their vanguard is detaching 10 heavy assault cruisers, sir, heading directly for our position. At the weapons console, Lieutenant Boomer Jax, a man whose frame seemed forged from raw determination and years of extreme environment operations, let out a low whistle. His red hair, usually an unruly mop, was currently plastered down with sweat. 10 heavy cruisers, Admiral, and they look eager. All pointed at a world that thinks its biggest threat is a solar flare. Admiral Lai nodded, her gaze unwavering from the main screen. Earth, billions of souls oblivious to the cosmic storm brewing beyond their protective atmosphere. Farms, vast cities, blossoming research facilities. No orbital defenses beyond the handful of Aegis platforms that provided surveillance, and certainly no standing fleet to challenge an armada. They were vulnerable to this immense force. The Sentinel Prime, however, was a different story. Communications specialist Kaito? Lai asked, turning to the last member of her core bridge crew. Kaito, a lean individual with an uncanny knack for decoding complex alien chatter, was already deep in his console. Picking up their internal comms, Admiral, Kaito reported, his voice a low murmur. Highly encrypted, but I'm making inroads. They're discussing resource allocation post-conquest and a few, shall we say, unflattering assessments of human combat capability. A faint, mirthless smile touched Kaito's lips. They believe we're an agrarian species. Quaint. Admiral Lai pushed herself up from the command chair, walking to the panoramic viewscreen that shimmered with the distant, menacing glow of the alien fleet. Every standard military doctrine screamed for retreat. Report to Earth Command, alert the Grand Fleet, the theoretical one, still centuries from completion, initiate system-wide defense protocols, which essentially meant praying. But those protocols meant sacrificing Earth, condemning humanity to an unthinkable outcome. The Sentinel Prime was one vessel, a ghost, a shadow, a whisper of what humanity could be. But against 800, Admiral Ensign Eris said quietly, our orders were reconnaissance. Observation and report. Direct engagement is unauthorized. Dr. Petrova's explicit instructions were to avoid combat unless absolutely necessary. Admiral Lai turned to face her crew. They were her family in the vast emptiness, the only ones who truly understood the Sentinel Prime's secrets. They had trained together for years, pushing the experimental vessel to its limits, discovering capabilities that most human engineers still theorized were impossible. The Sentinel Prime was not like other Earth Navy vessels. Its power core, based on Dr. Lena Petrova's theoretical zero-point singularity manifold, provided unparalleled thrust and energy generation. Its defensive screens, woven from pure chronoton energy, could shrug off impacts that would cripple standard warships. And its primary weapons, they were something entirely new. "Eris, what's our energy saturation?" Lai asked, her voice firm, decisive. "0-point singularity manifold at 65%, Admiral. I can push it to 95 for a limited burst, but the core shielding will begin to degrade," Eris replied, her fingers twitching, ready. "Jax, weapons status, kinetic disruptor cannons charged, Admiral. Chronoton lances primed. Point defense array green across the board." "Just give the word." Boomer Jax's massive hands hovered over his controls, eagerly. "Kaito, can you establish a wide-band, multi-frequency broadcast channel? Something that will cut through their encryption and hit every bridge in that Vanguard squadron." "Already working on it, Admiral. Their comms are a mess of different protocols, but I can create a cascade override. It'll be unavoidable." Kaito's smile was no longer mirthless. It held a hint of mischievous anticipation. Jian Lai made her decision. There was no going back. Battle stations. We're not running. We're going to send a message to that fleet, a very loud, very clear message, to Earth, to the Cathar Mandate, to the galaxy. The bridge lights pulsed once, dimming slightly as immense power diverted to weapons and shields. A low thrum filled the deck, the sound of the Sentinel Prime awakening. Slowly, imperceptibly to the alien sensors, the ship began to turn, its dark form almost vanishing against the cosmic tapestry. Its bow, sleek and utterly devoid of visible weaponry, swung towards the vast alien fleet. Aboard the Grand Arbiter, Flicker, the Viridian sensor technician, was practically vibrating with apprehension. "Hi, Arbitrator. The human vessel is accelerating. It's coming straight for us." Hi, Arbitrator Xylos's chortle was a dry, rasping sound. Are these humans truly so imbecilic? One ship against an entire armada? Perhaps they wish to surrender in person. "Hi, Arbitrator, the energy readings are escalating?" Tactician Vrix interjected, its voice losing its usual composed tone. "Far beyond any expected human output. This is not consistent with our intelligence profiles." Xylos's primary optics narrowed to slits. He had brought countless species to heel. One small human vessel would not be the downfall of the Mandate. Vanguard Squadron Beta, engage and eradicate that insignificant vessel. 10 heavy assault cruisers should be ample. "Yes, High Arbitrator," Tactician Vrix replied, but its voice was tight with an unfamiliar apprehension. On the Sentinel Prime, Admiral Jian Lai watched 10 immense alien cruisers detach from the main formation, each one a leviathan compared to her own ship. They bristled with plasma projectors and particle cannons, their shields shimmering with raw power. 10 contacts, Admiral Boomer Jax reported, his earlier whistle replaced by a grim set to his jaw. Heavy assault cruisers, and they look confident. "Kaito, open a channel to the lead cruiser. All frequencies, highest priority. Make sure it hits their main bridge display." "Channel open, Admiral. Ready for broadcast." Kaito's fingers poised. Lai stood tall, her gaze fixed on the approaching alien warships. Her voice, calm and clear, resonated through the Sentinel Prime's bridge and in moments through the alien void itself. "Cathar Mandate Fleet. This is Admiral Jian Lai of the United Earth Federation. You are encroaching upon human sovereign space with hostile intent. Turn back now or face consequences beyond your comprehension." On the Grand Arbiter, a wave of astonished silence swept the bridge, followed by a mix of incredulous and mocking sounds from the Chronos officers. High Arbitrator Xylos's multifaceted optics gleamed with cold amusement. Did that human just threaten us? Is this their attempt at humor? It would appear so, High Arbitrator, Tactician Vrix stated, though its multi-jointed head was tilted, its sensitive antennae sampling the strange frequency signature. There was something in the human voice, an unyielding certainty that was deeply unsettling. High Arbitrator, I advise extreme caution. Their power readings are continuing to spike, and the broadcast's encryption, it's of a type we have no record of. Xylos waved a dismissive manipulator. Nonsense! Vanguard Squadron Beta, obliterate them, now! The 10 alien cruisers roared to life, their weapon ports flaring with blinding light. Hundreds of plasma bolts, crackling with raw energy, and streams of explosive missiles surged across the void, a deadly rain descending upon the lonely human vessel. But the Sentinel Prime was already moving. It wasn't a conventional dodge. It was a blur, a sudden, impossible jolt sideways that left streaks in the visual feed. Lai felt a familiar, exhilarating pull as the ship defied its mass, sliding through space with an unnerving grace. The alien volleys, designed for lumbering targets, passed harmlessly through the space where the Sentinel Prime had been mere nanoseconds before. Jax, return fire. Show them what humanity can do. Show them the true meaning of consequences beyond comprehension. Lai's voice was a barely contained growl of satisfaction. The Sentinel Prime's primary kinetic disruptor cannons, hidden beneath chameleon plating that folded away in an instant, erupted with a thunderous crack that vibrated through the ship's very structure. They didn't fire energy beams or plasma. They launched solid metal slugs, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. Their velocity so immense they distorted the very light around them, creating miniature, fleeting gravimetric distortions. The first slug struck the lead alien cruiser's energy shields. The shimmering blue barrier flared violently, then simply disintegrated, vaporizing into nothingness. The second slug punched clean through the cruiser's primary armor plating, leaving a clean, perfectly circular hole that bled atmosphere. The third slug, precisely aimed, slammed into the ship's primary reactor core. Space erupted in a silent, blinding nova. The lead alien cruiser, a vessel built for war and believed invulnerable, simply ceased to exist. It became a momentary, brilliant sun, then a rapidly expanding cloud of incandescent gas and molten debris. The shockwave rippled through the void, causing the remaining alien cruisers to shudder, their own sensor arrays momentarily overwhelmed. On the Grand Arbiter, every alien on the bridge stood frozen in horrified silence. The image of the exploding cruiser, once a proud warship, now a searing memory of cosmic destruction, burned into their primary and secondary visual receptors. Impossible, High Arbitrator Xylos whispered, his multi-jointed body rigid, his smug expression replaced by one of profound, disbelieving horror. One shot. One utterly incomprehensible shot from that insignificant human vessel had eradicated a heavy cruiser designed to withstand sustained assaults from a dozen enemy craft. Vanguard Squadron Beta, continue the attack! Xylos roared, his voice a desperate, echoing rasp, trying to conjure back the authority that now felt utterly hollow. The remaining 9 alien cruisers, their formation broken by the sheer shock of what they had witnessed, haphazardly opened fire again. This time, they unleashed a confused, uncoordinated barrage of every weapon system. They possessed energy lances, plasma disruptors, guided torpedoes hoping sheer volume would overwhelm the impossible human ship. Admiral Lai watched the incoming deluge on her display. Eris, maximum engine output, everything we have. 0-point singularity manifold at 98%. Eris's voice was strained, but there was a fierce pride in her tone. Warning lights across the board. We can maintain this for 45 seconds. The Sentinel Prime became a blur of impossible motion, a celestial dancer performing an intricate ballet of evasion. It rolled sharply to port, weaving through a lattice of energy lances. It dove, spiraling away from massive plasma bursts. The guided torpedoes, designed to track and pulverize, twisted and turned. but the Sentinel Prime was always one step ahead. Jack's targets of opportunity. Pick your shots. Admiral Lai's command was calm, precise. Lieutenant Boomer Jax's eyes, usually mirthful, were now locked onto his targeting computer. The alien ships, despite their numbers, were now reacting with apprehension, their movements predictable, almost clumsy. Target lock, Cruiser 2 Viridian class. Kinetic disruptors ready, firing. The Sentinel Prime shuddered as its main guns unleashed another trio of hypervelocity slugs. The second alien cruiser, already trying a desperate wide turn, was too slow. The first slug tore through its primary engines, spinning it violently. The second punched through its midsection, buckling its spine. The third hit the bridge, transforming the command deck into a vaporized ruin. The cruiser broke apart, not exploding, but simply disintegrating into tumbling, flaming wreckage. On the alien Grand Arbiter, chaos erupted. Officers shouted reports in a cacophony of alien tongues. Several species, who had never witnessed their formidable vessels brought to such swift, utter ruin, stared wide-eyed at the tactical displays. Flicker, the sensor technician, cried out, its 8 manipulators shaking uncontrollably. High Arbitrator. The human ship is using kinetic weapons, solid projectiles. Calculations show impact velocities at nearly 25% light speed. That's impossible. The energy required, it defies all known science. Impossible. General Craven, a multi-limbed Cathar general, bellowed, his forearms waving in distress. No vessel of that size can generate such power. It defies all known laws of physics. But the tactical displays didn't lie. The human ship, a mere speck, moved with the impossible agility of a fighter and struck with the destructive power of a planetary siege platform. The leader of the remaining 8 alien cruisers, Commander Zorak, a creature from the warrior-bred Kronos caste, barked orders. He was accustomed to inspiring awe, not feeling it. But seeing 2 of his proud cruisers cease to exist in moments had planted a seed of cold dread in his hardened mind. All ships, engage evasive pattern Delta 9, spread wide, envelop them. The 8 cruisers began to fan out, attempting to box in the Sentinel Prime. Their plan simply to overwhelm the human vessel from multiple vectors simultaneously. They're trying to pin us down, Admiral Lai observed calmly. Eris, can you give me more speed? Break their formation. I can reroute emergency power from life support for precisely 35 seconds, Admiral Eris replied, her voice strained. It will give us a burst of incredible velocity, but only 35 seconds. Do it! The Sentinel Prime surged forward, a sudden blinding streak of pure speed. It shot directly towards one of the spreading Kronos cruisers. The alien captain, startled by the impossible acceleration, unleashed a panicked, uncoordinated barrage of fire. The shots whistled harmlessly past the Sentinel Prime as it rocketed past the cruiser's stern. Now, Jax! Admiral Lai commanded. Lieutenant Boomer Jax unleashed the Sentinel Prime's Chronoton lances. These were not solid projectiles, but small, contained energy bursts that ripped through space, leaving shimmering temporal distortions in their wake. 2 lances struck the Kronos cruiser from behind, directly into its exposed engine section. The Chronoton explosions tore through the alien ship's internal structures. Unnatural energy blossomed within its hull, consuming the vessel from the inside out. Nothing remained but a rapidly dissipating cloud of incandescent gas and twisted, glowing fragments that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. 3 down, 7 to go, Boomer Jax stated, a grim satisfaction in his voice. The remaining 7 alien cruisers, now utterly terrified, broke formation and fled, their engines screaming as they turned back towards the safety of the main fleet. They fired wildly over their shoulders, their plasma weapons dissipating ineffectually across the vast distance, their missiles too slow to catch the fleeing human vessel. Admiral Lai recognized her opportunity. Kaito scanned their communications. I want every word they're saying to each fleet commander broadcast to my bridge. Kaito's fingers danced. Got it, Admiral. Their internal comms are a mess of panic. They're reporting our weapons as unimaginable, our ship as cursed by wrathful void spirits. Many are calling for immediate retreat from the system. Good, Lai said, a faint, predatory smile touching her lips. Fear is a weapon too. Jax, let's give them something else to be concerned about. The Sentinel Prime pivoted, turning its sleek bow towards the fourth fleeing cruiser. This time, Boomer Jax engaged the ship's secondary kinetic pulse cannons, smaller but capable of a much higher rate of fire. A continuous stream of hypervelocity metal slugs flew across the void, each one hammering the alien ship's hull with devastating force. The cruiser's shields, already weakened, flickered and failed. Its armor began to buckle, then tore apart under the relentless impacts. The alien vessel tried a desperate turn, but the stream of slugs continued to chew through its hull. Finally, a series of impacts struck its bridge, and the cruiser simply ceased all coherent movement, a drifting, inert hulk. 4 down, Admiral Lai said, the quietness of her voice belying the immense feat they had just accomplished. The last 6 alien cruisers were now in full, desperate retreat, pushing their engines to maximum, trying to reach the main fleet. But Admiral Lai was not finished with them yet. Pursue them, she ordered. The Sentinel Prime surged forward, a hunting wolf pursuing panicked prey. Its experimental engines, still running hot, were simply too powerful for the alien vessels. It rapidly closed the distance. The first cruiser, in a desperate, last-ditch effort, fired a volley over its shoulder, the shots going wide. Boomer Jax aimed calmly and fired a single shot from a main kinetic disruptor cannon. The metal projectile hit the cruiser's main engine and tore a massive hole through its drive system. The ship began to spin, crippled but not annihilated. A survivor, to tell the story. The final 5 cruisers, pushed beyond their limits, just barely made it to the edge of the main alien fleet's formation. Admiral Lai could have ended them, but she had a better idea. Kaito, open a direct, unencrypted channel to that crippled vessel. Tell them to report to their High Arbitrator exactly what they witnessed here today. Every detail. Make it clear that this was not a skirmish, but a warning. Message sent, Admiral. The damaged alien cruiser limped into the vast expanse of the Cathar Mandate fleet, a living testament to an impossible, horrifying truth. In less than 10 minutes, one human ship had obliterated 4 heavy cruisers and crippled a 5th. It had done so while outnumbered 10-1, and it had made the entire engagement appear effortless. On the Grand Arbiter, High Arbitrator Xylos listened to the surviving captain's trembling, broken report. The human ship was not merely advanced, it was a phenomenon, a nightmare made real. Impossible weapons, the captain's voice crackled through the calm, laced with raw terror. They fire solid metal faster than our sensors can track. Their ship moves as if it has no mass. And their commander, she spoke to us as if we were children playing with fragile toys. Xylos's chitinous claws scraped against his command chair. 5 ships, 5 of his mighty heavy cruisers, vanquished by a single human vessel. If there were more like this one, his entire fleet, his entire conquest was imperiled. High Arbitrator, Tactician Vrick spoke carefully, its antennae flattened against its head in an ancient Viridian sign of extreme distress. I respectfully recommend we reconsider our attack on the human homeworld. This is an unacceptable variable. Never, Xylos roared, his voice a guttural click that vibrated with desperate fury. We have 800 ships. One human vessel cannot stop us all. But even as he bellowed the words, Xylos felt the chilling tendrils of doubt coiling in his multi-jointed mind. If humans could build one ship like this, what other inconceivable capabilities were they hiding in the depths of their unexplored space? On the Sentinel Prime, Admiral Lai studied the new sensor readings of the alien fleet. Their ships were moving differently now, staying tighter, clustering together like frightened herd animals. A few were even beginning to subtly shift their vectors, turning away from Earth. Admiral Ensign Aris said quietly, "Our zero-point singularity manifold is running hot. We need to initiate a cooldown cycle soon, or we risk core instability." Admiral Lai nodded. The Sentinel Prime had scored its point. It had unveiled a fraction of its immense power, but it was still just one ship against a veritable galaxy of enemies. The true battle, the strategic battle for the fate of Earth, was only just beginning. "Set course for the edge of the system's primary asteroid belt," she ordered. "We'll shadow their fleet." "Kaito, continue monitoring their comms. We need to hear every argument, every whisper of doubt." Admiral Kaito said, looking up from his console, a wide, almost manic grin spreading across his face. "I'm picking up multiple hyperspace signatures, fast contacts, and they're using Earth Navy identification codes, lots of them." A wave of profound relief washed over Lai, quickly replaced by a surge of renewed determination. The reinforcements, they were coming. But first, the Sentinel Prime had delivered a message that would echo through the vastness of alien space for generations to come. Humanity was no longer a weak, fledgling species to be casually conquered. They were a force to be reckoned with, and a force to be feared. The age of human power in the cosmos had just begun. The alien fleet, a vast tapestry of metallic might, continued its slow, inexorable march towards Earth. Yet something had shifted. The orderly procession, once a symbol of unified conquest, now carried an undercurrent of unease. Whispers, then shouts, carried across calm channels, distorting protocols, demanding explanations. The crippled Kronos cruiser, limping back to the main formation, its hull a testament to impossible impacts, was a chilling spectacle. Its captain's report, relayed to every bridge, painted a picture of a human vessel that defied all known physics, a phantom of steel and fire. On the Grand Arbiter, High Arbitrator Xylos clawed at the armrest of his command throne, his multifaceted optics fixed on the distant, lingering signature of the Sentinel Prime at the edge of his sensor range. Doubt, a sensation he despised, gnawed at his resolve. "They cannot have more of these ghosts," he hissed, the click-clack of his articulation more desperate than commanding. "It is a single, advanced prototype, an anomaly." Tactician Vrix, usually composed, now struggled to maintain its professional facade. "High Arbitrator, the reports from the Kronos captain are compelling. He speaks of weaponry that simply ignores our shield harmonics and a speed that outstrips our finest interceptors. The morale among the Cathar vanguard is already eroding. Their tactical analysis indicates an unacceptable risk of further asset destruction if we press the attack without re-evaluation." Across the various bridges of the Cathar Mandate fleet, the narrative of the Sentinel Prime blossomed, distorted by fear and disbelief. Captain Zilkar, a reptilian commander of a heavy destroyer, watched the tactical display with unease. Her comms officer chirped nervously, "Commander, Central Command is reiterating standard protocols." They insist the human vessel was a fluke, a lucky shot. Zilkar snorted, a hiss of vapor from her twin nostrils. "Luck does not shatter 5 cruisers in 10 minutes. Luck does not make the Kronos flee." She knew her crew was watching her. She felt their anxiety, a cold ripple through the deck plates. On the hive ship maternal embrace, Queen Xyla, an immense insectoid creature whose diamond-hard carapace pulsed with pheromones, received direct neural feedback from the shattered remnants of the Cathar crew. Worker Captain Kaelak, a drone dedicated solely to tactical data, quivered as he processed the Queen's mental query. "My Queen, the human vessel is a terror. Its strikes are precise, its movements akin to a void spirit. There is no glory in engaging such an enemy." Xyla felt a profound, instinctual fear, mingled with a burning rage at the loss of her drones. Her species had conquered 40 worlds through sheer numbers and fearless aggression. This humanity introduced a new variable, profound uncertainty. The crystalline envoys, who guided their sleek, crystalline vessels by pure logic and probability, began to run simultaneous simulations. Their calculations were stark. Continued engagement, even with overwhelming numbers, resulted in an escalating probability of unacceptable fleet attrition. For the crystalline, survival was the ultimate logic. Their internal comms buzzed with debate, their cold, resonant voices discussing retreat scenarios. And the energy dancers, beings of pure, solidified plasma who lived for the thrill and honor of battle, found themselves checking their phase inductors twice, their usual bravado replaced by a nervous energy. There was no glory in being vaporized before one could even engage. Aboard the Sentinel Prime, Admiral Jian Lai watched it all unfold. Specialist Kaito, having completely breached the mandate's communication network, fed every argument, every whisper of doubt, directly to the bridge. Admiral, the Cathar are blaming the Viridian for not providing better sensor data. The G-Tarl are questioning High Arbitrator Xylos' leadership. And the Crystallins, they're running complex probability models that all point to a swift and catastrophic downfall. Lai permitted herself a faint smile. Excellent, Kaito. Dr. Petrova would be proud. She was referring to Earth Navy's leading xenopsychologist, whose theories on alien alliance dynamics were now proving startlingly accurate. Their alliance is a house of cards, held together by the promise of easy conquest. Remove that promise, inject enough fear, and it collapses. Ensign Aris looked up from her console. Admiral, 0-point singularity manifold is fully cooled. We can run at peak performance for another 6 hours, if necessary. Good. Jax, prepare for surgical strikes. Kaito, identify key communication hubs and critical supply vessels. We don't want to destroy them, not yet. We want to paralyze them, make them feel utterly helpless. The Sentinel Prime ghosted back into the periphery of the vast alien fleet, its chameleon plating shifting to perfectly match the stellar background. Lai chose her first target, a massive communication vessel acting as the central nexus for multiple species. It pulsed with 100 different data streams, coordinating the fleet's lumbering movements. Target locked, Admiral. Boomer Jax reported, his voice low, focused. 1 Chronoton Lance. Precision strike. Fire! A single, contained burst of energy, almost invisible against the backdrop of space, shot across the void. It struck the communication vessel's main antenna array, not with a catastrophic explosion, but with a precise surgical rupture. The explosion was contained, localized, designed to disable, not obliterate. Immediately, that section of the fleet dissolved into chaos. Ships began to drift aimlessly, their internal systems cut off from the main command network. Some species attempted to take charge, their local commanders barking confused, contradictory orders, while others simply froze, awaiting instructions that never arrived. Next target, Lai ordered, her voice unwavering. The Sentinel Prime struck again, this time hitting a monstrous insectoid supply vessel, laden with nutrient paste and fuel cells for the hive ships. The explosion was larger this time, a contained detonation designed to spread burning provisions through the void like deadly, glowing snow. Aboard the maternal embrace, Queen Xyla felt the downfall of her worker drones through their mental link, a searing, phantom pain that resonated through her hive mind. Rage consumed her, but it was interwoven with a chilling recognition of vulnerability. How could one enemy ship strike with such surgical, devastating precision? All hive ships, attack the human vessel, she broadcast, her mental voice a cacophony of fury. But on the Grand Arbiter, High Arbitrator Xylos, desperate to reassert his crumbling authority, bellowed a conflicting order. Maintain formation. Do not break ranks. For the first time in the Cathar Mandate, two prominent species commanders issued diametrically opposed orders. The insectoid ships hesitated, their immense forms shifting uncertainly. Some lumbered towards where they thought the human ghost ship was hiding, while others remained rigidly in formation, paralyzed by conflicting directives. Kaito watched with grim satisfaction. "It's working, Admiral. Their formation is disintegrating. Look." The alien fleet, once a disciplined, organized mass, was now scattering, ships moving at different speeds on different vectors. The battle plan, months in the making, was dissolving into disarray. Lai struck again, targeting a crystalline logistics vessel. This ship was the mathematical brain of the fleet, calculating fuel consumption, supply routes, and resource allocation. Without its data, the fleet commanders would have no precise understanding of how long they could operate in human space before their intricate supply chain collapsed. The Sentinel Prime's Chronoton Lance hit its mark, disabling the vessel's computational core without ending its life support. Admiral Kaito reported, a flicker of excitement in his eyes. "I'm picking up frantic, angry communications between species commanders. The reptilians are blaming the insectoids for breaking ranks. The energy dancers are calling everyone cowards. High Arbitrator Xylos is trying to restore order, but his own officers are openly questioning his directives. One of them just suggested they retreat and target a less problematic world." A surge of hope, cold and calculating, went through Jai and Lai. If the alien fleet turned away, if they abandoned Earth, billions of lives would be spared. But she knew it wouldn't be that simple. "Admiral," Ensign Eris's voice cut through the comms, sharper, more urgent. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive hyperspace signatures. Multiple contacts coming in fast." Lai turned to the main view screen, her heart leaping. "How many, Eris? Be precise." "Counting. 15 ships, no, 20, 25, 30 ships, Admiral, all of them. They're using Earth Navy identification codes. Fleet Admiral Valerius's command signature is among them." A wave of profound relief, almost debilitating in its intensity, washed over Lai. The reinforcements, the cavalry, they had arrived. But 30 ships against nearly 800. Kaito, open a channel to the lead ship. Highest priority. Admiral Valerius's ship. "Channel open, Admiral. Patching through now." Kaito's smile was unbridled now, triumphant. The response was immediate, a strong, authoritative male voice filling the bridge. "Admiral Lai, this is Admiral Elias Valerius aboard the UEF Grand Bastion. We've been monitoring your actions for the past hour. Astounding work, Admiral, truly." Lai felt a surge of pride, quickly tempered by the enormity of the task ahead. Admiral Valerius, one of Earth's most formidable fleet commanders, known for his audacious tactics and unwavering resolve. If anyone could turn 30 ships into a fighting force capable of facing an armada of 800, it was him. "Admiral," Lai replied, her voice firm, "the Cathar Mandate fleet is showing severe signs of internal discord. I recommend we exploit this weakness before they can reorganize." "Agreed, Admiral," Valerius's voice boomed. "Upload all your tactical data to the Grand Bastion. We'll coordinate our attacks to maximize confusion among enemy forces. They think they're fighting one ship. Let's show them a galaxy of unexpected challenges." As the human reinforcements, a compact, determined force of cruisers, destroyers, and carriers, began to materialize from hyperspace, taking up positions around the Sentinel Prime, Lai felt the balance of power subtly, yet irrevocably, shift. The aliens still outnumbered them by a staggering margin, 25-1. But numbers meant nothing if the enemy was consumed by infighting, fear, and shattered morale. On the Grand Arbiter, High Arbitrator Xylos watched his sensors with growing horror as more human vessels appeared. Each new energy signature, each new identification code was like a physical blow. These humans were not the primitive, weak creatures his intelligence reports had described. They were a nascent, terrifying power. High Arbitrator, Tactician Vrick spoke, its antennae flat against its head in a gesture of profound dismay. Our fleet is starting to break apart. The Crystalline Collective is requesting immediate withdrawal. They are calculating a 90% chance of total fleet destruction if we continue. Xylos's chitinous claws dug into his command chair. Everything was unraveling. His flawless plan, his grand conquest, was spiraling into chaos. His fleet, once an unstoppable tide, was seized by terror. And now more human ships. Send a message to all ships. Xylos bellowed, his voice raw with desperation. Any commander who retreats without direct orders will face summary judgment for cowardice. But even as he spoke the words, Xylos knew. Fear was a more potent commander than discipline. The humans had achieved the impossible. They had made his mighty armada afraid of shadows. The true battle for Earth, the battle that would reshape galactic history, was about to begin. And for the first time in his long, blood-soaked career, High Arbitrator Xylos was not sure his side would prevail. The voice of Admiral Elias Valerius, calm and authoritative, filled the Sentinel Prime's bridge. Admiral Lai, this is Admiral Elias Valerius aboard the UEF Grand Bastion. We've been monitoring your actions for the past hour. Astounding work, Admiral, truly. A profound relief, almost debilitating in its intensity, washed over Jian Lai, quickly replaced by a surge of renewed determination. The reinforcements, the cavalry, they had arrived. 30 ships, coalescing from shimmering hyperspace distortions around the Sentinel Prime, their hulls a testament to Earth's burgeoning ingenuity and fierce resolve. 30 ships against nearly 800 of the Cathar Mandate's finest. The odds remained grim, yet the impossible seemed less so now. Admiral Valerius, Lai replied, her voice firm, the exhaustion of her single ship stand momentarily forgotten. The Cathar Mandate fleet is showing severe signs of internal discord. I recommend we exploit this weakness before they can reorganize. Agreed, Admiral. Valerius's voice boomed, a resonant force of leadership. Upload all your tactical data to the Grand Bastion. We'll coordinate our attacks to maximize confusion among enemy forces. They think they're fighting one ship. Let's show them a galaxy of unexpected challenges. As the human reinforcements, a compact, determined force of heavy cruisers, agile destroyers, and versatile carriers began to materialize from hyperspace. Taking up positions around the Sentinel Prime, Lai felt the balance of power subtly, yet irrevocably, shift. The aliens still outnumbered them by a staggering margin, 25-1. But numbers meant nothing if the enemy was consumed by infighting, fear, and shattered morale. On the Grand Arbiter, High Arbitrator Xylos watched his sensors with growing horror as more human vessels appeared. Each new energy signature, each new identification code was like a physical blow. These humans were not the primitive, weak creatures his intelligence reports had described. They were a nascent, terrifying power. High Arbitrator, Tactician Vrick spoke, its antennae flattened against its head in a gesture of profound dismay. Our fleet is starting to break apart. The Crystalline Collective is requesting immediate withdrawal. They are calculating a 90% chance of total fleet destruction if we continue. Xylos's chitinous claws dug into his command chair. Everything was unraveling. His flawless plan, his grand conquest, was spiraling into chaos. His fleet, once an unstoppable tide, was seized by terror. And now more human ships. Send a message to all ships. Xylos bellowed, his voice raw with desperation. Any commander who retreats without direct orders will face summary judgment for cowardice. But even as he spoke the words, Xylos knew. Fear was a more potent commander than discipline. The humans had achieved the impossible. They had made his mighty armada afraid of shadows. The human fleet, now 31 strong, spread out through the vastness of space like a pack of hunting wolves. Admiral Elias Valerius sat in the command chair of the UEF Grand Bastion, his gaze unwavering as he studied the tactical display. 800 alien ships against his formidable, if numerically inferior, 30. The odds were horrendous, but Valerius had faced worse. Captain Rojas, Admiral Valerius's voice, calm and resolute, projected across the comms. Take your heavy cruiser and the destroyer squadron to their left flank. Captain Chen, your carrier group, will provide fighter support from above. Admiral Lai, Commander Thorne, continue your ghost attacks on their supply lines and communication relays. Keep their internal discord simmering. Understood, Admiral. Captain Rojas, commanding the UEF Colossus, a heavy cruiser bristling with kinetic pulse cannons, replied, his voice firm. My guns are eager to commence the dance. Fighters launching now, Admiral. Captain Chen from the UEF Valkyrie carrier reported. They'll be in position in 5 minutes. Ghost attacks initiated, Admiral. Admiral Lai's voice came through, cool and professional. We know how to strike where it truly hurts. Admiral Valerius had spent decades studying alien tactics and psychology. He knew the Cathar Mandate fleet was an amalgamation of disparate species, held together by greed and a precarious hierarchy. The fear Admiral Lai had masterfully sown was already turning into a volatile brew of suspicion and anger. Now, he planned to turn that fear into outright panic. All ships, Admiral Valerius broadcast to his fleet, his voice resonating with unyielding authority, our objective is not to eradicate every enemy vessel. That would be a fool's errand. Our goal is to shatter their will to fight, to send them fleeing back to their systems with tales that will deter any future aggression against human space. Make them understand that humanity is not to be trifled with. On the Sentinel Prime, Admiral Lai felt a surge of pride. She had started this fight alone with a single shadow against an empire. Now she was part of a true fleet led by an admiral who understood the deeper game. Dr. Lena Petrova, if she were here, would be thrilled. Kaito, ever vigilant, looked up from his science station, eyes gleaming. Admiral, I've refined our target priorities. The crystalline beings, as expected, are now calculating their probability of success as less than 10%. They'll be the first to break ranks formally. What about the others? Lai asked. The energy dancers are losing their appetite for battle. They seek glory, and there's no glory in being vaporized by an invisible enemy. The Hive Queen is reeling from the loss of her workers and the disruption of her supply lines. Her protective instincts are overwhelming her offensive ones. Kaito gestured to the main tactical display. We pick at the threads, Admiral, until the whole tapestry unravels. The human fleet moved into attack positions with a synchronized precision that was breathtaking. Each ship knew its role, played it perfectly, a symphony of coordinated destruction. The aliens had sheer numbers, but the humans fought as one mind with one purpose. The UEF Colossus, Captain Rojas at the helm, opened fire first. Its massive kinetic pulse cannons sent streaks of light-speed projectiles screaming across the void. The slugs tore into a Cathar battleship's shields, obliterating them instantly, then punched clean through its reinforced hull. Direct hit on enemy battleship, Captain Rojas reported, a note of grim satisfaction in his voice. Shields down, atmosphere leaking. Captain Chen's fighters swarmed the alien fleet like angry, metallic bees. Too fast for the lumbering alien turrets, they launched precision missiles at engine nacelles and weapon conduits, leaving trails of burning wreckage. High Arbitrator Xylos watched his fleet being torn apart, piece by piece. The humans weren't fighting like any enemy he had ever faced. They didn't charge headlong, seeking glorious melee. They struck with surgical precision, exploiting every weakness, amplifying every fear. High Arbitrator, General Craven bellowed, his multi-limbed body contorting with agitation. The Crystalline Collective is formally requesting permission to withdraw. Their central processors indicate a 95% probability of fleet annihilation if we persist. Denied, Xylos roared, his voice cracking. We outnumber them 25-1. But tactician Vrix, now completely disheartened, countered, "High Arbitrator, numbers mean nothing if we cannot hit our targets. These human vessels move with impossible speed. Their weapons pierce our strongest screens, and they fight as if they can read our minds." On the Grand Bastion, Admiral Valerius was a conductor leading a terrifying orchestra. Admiral Lai hit their flagship's main communication array. "Captain Rojas, focus fire on that carrier group. Captain Chen, send your fighters after their main fuel depot." The Sentinel Prime, a shadow through the chaos, launched a single Chronoton lance. It struck the Grand Arbiter's primary communication tower, disabling it in a controlled burst of energy. Suddenly, High Arbitrator Xylos was cut off from half his fleet. Ships began acting on their own, some attacking, some attempting to retreat, some simply drifting, utterly lost. Captain Rojas's Colossus shredded 3 alien carriers in quick succession, each explosion lighting up the void, sending shockwaves through the shaken alien vessels. The aliens had never seen their mighty capital ships vanish so easily. Captain Chen's fighters, a swarm of lethal precision, decimated the alien supply convoy. Food ships, fuel tankers, and ammunition carriers exploded one after another. Soon, even if they somehow won this impossible battle, the Cathar Mandate fleet would have no way to sustain itself in human space. The breaking point arrived when the Crystalline Collective's flagship, a magnificent, glowing vessel, abruptly turned away from the battle. The logical beings had calculated that continued engagement was suicide. Their ships, following their cold logic, began to retreat en masse. "The Crystalline ships are running," Kaito reported from the Sentinel Prime, his voice filled with awe. "Admiral, this is causing absolute pandemonium among the other species. Some are following the Crystallines, others are calling them Craven." High Arbitrator Xylos watched his carefully constructed alliance collapse. Without the Crystalline ships, he lost 200 vessels and their invaluable tactical support. The remaining aliens, instead of fighting, were now turning on each other, their ancient grudges resurfacing amidst the terror. All ships maintained formation. Xylos shrieked into a dead calm. Only half his fleet could even hear him. The Hive Queen, Xyla, decided she had lost enough workers. All Hive ships retreat to safe distance. Preserve the swarm for another day, she broadcast to her drones. The immense insectoid vessels began to turn away, taking another 150 ships out of the fight. Now, High Arbitrator Xylos was down to less than 400 ships, and many of those belonged to species already looking for their own exits. Admiral Valerius saw the alien fleet unraveling. "All ships, press the attack, do not let them regroup." The human fleet struck like lightning. Captain Rojas's Colossus disintegrated 2 Cathar battleships with a single salvo. Admiral Lai's Sentinel Prime, now working in tandem with the Grand Bastion, hammered another dozen alien ships with devastating, precise strikes. Captain Chen's fighters swarmed over a group of Viridian cruisers, leaving them as burning wrecks. But Admiral Valerius was not finished. He had one more surprise for the aliens. "Admiral Lai, are you ready for the final phase?" Valerius's voice was taut with anticipation. Lai checked her ship's status. The Sentinel Prime had taken some minor shield impacts, but all systems were holding. "Ready, Admiral. Let's show them what happens when humanity gets truly provoked." Every human ship in the fleet fired at once. The concentrated barrage of kinetic pulse cannons, Chronoton lances, and fighter missiles struck the alien fleet at the exact same moment. The coordinated strike was so devastating, so utterly overwhelming, that it looked as if a new, brief sun had exploded in the heart of the alien armada. When the blinding detonations faded, nearly 100 alien ships were gone. not merely damaged, but gone, vaporized into shimmering gas and twisted, glowing debris. The survivors, scattered and broken, sat in shocked silence, unable to comprehend the sheer scale of the devastation. On the alien flagship, High Arbitrator Xylos stared at his tactical display in unadulterated horror. In less than an hour, his mighty fleet of 800 ships had been reduced to less than 200, and the human fleet, though numerically small, was still intact, still fighting, still winning. High Arbitrator, Tactician Vrix whispered, its form shaking uncontrollably, "We must retreat. If we stay, they will eliminate us all." For the first time in his long, brutal career, High Arbitrator Xylos tasted true defeat. The humans had not just vanquished his fleet, they had humiliated it. Stories of this battle, of this impossible, terrifying human power, would spread throughout alien space for generations. Signal General Retreat, he forced out, the words tasting like ash in his mouth, the very utterance a poison to his conqueror's pride. As the remaining alien ships began to turn away, a broken, desperate flight, Admiral Valerius was already planning his next move. The battle was won, but the war for human space, the war for galactic recognition, was just beginning. And the aliens were about to learn that humanity, once provoked, never forgot. The void, now a chaotic tableau of clashing energies and desperate maneuvers, pulsed with the raw power of two vastly different philosophies of war. High Arbitrator Xylos, despite his blustering pronouncements, could feel the chilling tendrils of despair tightening around his multi-jointed form. His mighty armada, once a symbol of unified, unstoppable conquest, was fraying at the edges. 31 human vessels, now coalescing from shimmering hyperspace distortions around the UES Sentinel Prime, moved with a terrifying precision that belied their meager numbers. Admiral Elias Valerius, from the command bridge of the UEF Grand Bastion, watched the Cathar Mandate fleet's disarray with a calm, predatory gaze. 800 alien ships, a colossal force, yet they were already losing cohesion. Captain Rojas, Admiral Valerius's voice, a steady current of unwavering authority, projected across the comms. Take your heavy cruiser and the destroyer squadron to their left flank. Target their Viridian-class support vessels. Captain Chen, your carrier group will provide fighter support from above. Pinpoint their primary fuel depots. Admiral Lai, Commander Thorne, continue your ghost attacks on their supply lines and communication relays. Keep their internal discord simmering. Understood, Admiral. Captain Rojas, commanding the UEF Colossus, a heavy cruiser bristling with kinetic pulse cannons, replied, his voice firm. My guns are eager to commence the dance. Fighters launching now, Admiral. Captain Chen from the UEF Valkyrie carrier reported, her tone sharp with anticipation. They'll be in position in 4 minutes. Ghost attacks initiated, Admiral. Admiral Lai's voice came through, cool and professional, from the Sentinel Prime. We know how to strike where it truly hurts. Admiral Valerius had spent decades studying alien tactics and psychology. He knew the Cathar Mandate fleet was an amalgamation of disparate species, held together by greed and a precarious hierarchy. The fear Admiral Lai had masterfully sown was already turning into a volatile brew of suspicion and anger. Now, he planned to turn that fear into outright panic, to unravel their collective will until only a frantic scramble for survival remained. All ships, Admiral Valerius broadcast to his fleet, his voice resonating with unyielding authority, our objective is not to eradicate every enemy vessel. That would be a fool's errand and needlessly costly. Our goal is to shatter their will to fight, to send them fleeing back to their systems with tales that will deter any future aggression against human space. Make them understand that humanity is not to be trifled with. Let this be a lesson etched into the fabric of the cosmos. On the Sentinel Prime, Admiral Lai felt a surge of profound pride. She had started this fight alone, a single shadow against an empire. Now she was part of a true fleet led by an admiral who understood the deeper game, the unseen currents of alien psychology. Dr. Lena Petrova, if she were here, would be thrilled at the validation of her theories. Kaito, ever vigilant, looked up from his science station, eyes gleaming with intellectual triumph. Admiral, I've refined our target priorities. The crystalline beings, as expected, are now calculating their probability of success as less than 10%. They'll be the first to break ranks formally. What about the others? Lai asked, her gaze sweeping across the tactical display. The energy dancers are losing their appetite for battle. They seek glory, and there's no glory in being vaporized by an invisible enemy they cannot even engage effectively. The Hive Queen is reeling from the loss of her workers and the disruption of her supply lines. Her protective instincts are overwhelming her offensive ones. Kaito gestured to the main tactical display where alien icons now wobbled erratically. We pick at the threads, Admiral, until the whole tapestry unravels. The human fleet moved into attack positions with a synchronized precision that was breathtaking. Each ship knew its role, played it perfectly, a symphony of coordinated destruction. The aliens had sheer numbers, a crushing numerical superiority, but the humans fought as one mind with one purpose, leveraging their advanced technology with unmatched tactical ingenuity. The UEF Colossus, Captain Rojas at the helm, opened fire first. Its massive kinetic pulse cannons sent streaks of light-speed projectiles screaming across the void, leaving shimmering wake trails. The slugs tore into a Cathar battleship's shields, obliterating them instantly, then punched clean through its reinforced hull. The immense alien vessel groaned, its internal lights flickering as vital systems failed. Direct hit on enemy battleship, Captain Rojas reported, a note of grim satisfaction in his voice. Shields down, atmosphere leaking, target is spiraling. Captain Chen's fighters, swarms of agile, lethal drones, poured from the Valkyrie's launch bays, swarming the alien fleet like angry, metallic bees. Too fast for the lumbering alien turrets, they launched precision missiles at engine nacelles and weapon conduits, leaving trails of burning wreckage and silenced turrets in their wake. They were not seeking fleet-wide destruction, but targeted paralysis. High Arbitrator Xylos watched his fleet being torn apart, piece by piece, on his bridge display. The humans weren't fighting like any enemy he had ever faced. They didn't charge headlong, seeking glorious melee as the Cathar would. They struck with surgical precision, exploiting every weakness, amplifying every fear. It was an insidious, demoralizing form of combat. High Arbitrator, General Craven bellowed, his multi-limbed body contorting with agitation. The Crystalline Collective is formally requesting permission to withdraw. Their central processors indicate a 95% probability of fleet annihilation if we persist. Denied. Xylos roared, his voice cracking, desperation clinging to his words. We outnumber them 25-1. But tactician Vrix, now completely disheartened, countered. Its antennae flat against its head, High Arbitrator. Numbers mean nothing if we cannot hit our targets. These human vessels move with impossible speed. Their weapons pierce our strongest screens. And they fight, as if they can read our minds. On the Grand Bastion, Admiral Valerius was a conductor leading a terrifying orchestra of advanced weaponry and strategic genius. Admiral Lai hit their flagship's main communication array, cut them off from their commanders. Captain Rojas, focus fire on that carrier group. Eliminate their ability to project power. Captain Chen, send your fighters after their main fuel depot, starve them of resources. The Sentinel Prime, a shadow through the chaos, launched a single Chronoton lance. It struck the Grand Arbiter's primary communication tower, disabling it in a controlled burst of Chronoton energy. The explosion was not devastating, but it was precise, effective. Suddenly, High Arbitrator Xylos was cut off from half his fleet, his frantic orders reaching only those directly within his localized network. Ships began acting on their own, some attacking, some attempting to retreat, some simply drifting, utterly lost in the void. The Mandate's chain of command, already weakened by doubt, was now irrevocably broken. Captain Rojas's Colossus, a behemoth of human engineering, shredded 3 alien carriers in quick succession, each explosion lighting up the void like a miniature nova, sending shockwaves through the shaken alien vessels. The aliens had never seen their mighty capital ships vanish so easily, not against such a comparatively small force. Captain Chen's fighters, a swarm of lethal precision, decimated the alien supply convoy. Food ships, fuel tankers, and ammunition carriers exploded one after another, their contents blooming into expanding clouds of burning provisions and twisted metal. Soon, even if they somehow won this impossible battle, the Cathar Mandate fleet would have no way to sustain itself in human space. Their conquest was already a logistical impossibility. The breaking point arrived when the Crystalline Collective's flagship, a magnificent, glowing vessel of pure, rational logic, abruptly turned away from the battle. The logical beings had calculated that continued engagement was suicide. Their ships, following their cold, unyielding logic, began to retreat en masse, their departure leaving a gaping hole in the alien formation. "The Crystalline ships are running," Kaito reported from the Sentinel Prime, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and triumph. "Admiral, this is causing absolute pandemonium among the other species. Some are following the Crystallines, others are calling them Craven. The Cathar are engaging their former allies." High Arbitrator Xylos watched his carefully constructed alliance collapse. Without the Crystalline ships, he lost 200 vessels and their invaluable tactical support. The remaining aliens, instead of fighting the humans, were now turning on each other, their ancient grudges resurfacing amidst the terror and confusion. Frigates opened fire on their supposed allies, destroyers launched torpedoes at ships attempting to flee. The Mandate was imploding. All ships maintained formation. Xylos shrieked into a dead calm, his voice echoing in the growing silence of his command bridge. Only half his fleet could even hear him. The Hive Queen, Xyla, decided she had lost enough workers, her instinct for preservation overriding all martial pride. "All Hive ships, retreat to safe distance. Preserve the swarm for another day," she broadcast to her drones. The immense insectoid vessels began to turn away, a lumbering, desperate exodus taking another 150 ships out of the fight. Now, High Arbitrator Xylos was down to less than 400 ships, and many of those belonged to species already looking for their own exits, their systems consumed by internal conflict or outright panic. Admiral Valerius saw the alien fleet unraveling. "All ships, press the attack, do not let them regroup, drive them out." The human fleet struck like lightning. Captain Rojas's Colossus disintegrated 2 Cathar battleships with a single salvo, their shields already failing under the onslaught. Admiral Lai's Sentinel Prime, now working in tandem with the Grand Bastion, hammered another dozen alien ships with devastating, precise strikes that disabled their engines or crippled their weapon systems. Captain Chen's fighters swarmed over a group of Viridian cruisers, leaving them as burning wrecks, their ethereal forms reduced to mere debris. But Admiral Valerius was not finished. He had one more surprise, one final, decisive blow for the aliens that would ensure their immediate retreat and a lasting impression. "Admiral Lai, are you ready for the final phase?" Valerius's voice was taut with anticipation, a vibrant energy thrumming beneath his calm exterior. Lai checked her ship's status. The Sentinel Prime had taken some minor shield impacts, but all systems were holding, gleaming green across her consoles. "Ready, Admiral. Let's show them what happens when humanity gets truly provoked." Every human ship in the fleet fired at once. The coordinated barrage of kinetic pulse cannons, chronoton lances, and fighter missiles struck the alien fleet at the exact same moment. It was not a scattered volley, but a concentrated, crushing blow designed to break the enemy's will utterly. The coordinated strike was so devastating, so utterly overwhelming, that it looked as if a new, brief sun had exploded in the heart of the alien armada. When the blinding detonations faded, nearly 100 alien ships were gone. Not merely damaged, but gone, vaporized into shimmering gas and twisted, glowing debris. The survivors, scattered and broken, sat in shocked silence, unable to comprehend the sheer scale of the devastation. On the alien flagship, High Arbitrator Xylos stared at his tactical display in unadulterated horror. In less than an hour, his mighty fleet of 800 ships had been reduced to less than 200, and the human fleet, though numerically small, was still intact, still fighting, still winning. High Arbitrator, Tactician Vrix whispered, its form shaking uncontrollably, its multifaceted eyes fixed on the inevitable. "We must retreat. If we stay, they will eliminate us all." For the first time in his long, brutal career, High Arbitrator Xylos tasted true defeat. The humans had not just vanquished his fleet, they had humiliated it. Stories of this battle, of this impossible, terrifying human power, would spread throughout alien space for generations, tainting the Cathar Mandate's reputation for invincibility. Signal General Retreat, he forced out, the words tasting like ash in his mouth, each syllable a poison to his conqueror's pride. The alien fleet tried to run, a broken, desperate flight, but Admiral Elias Valerius was not finished with them yet. He watched the enemy ships turn away from battle with cold satisfaction. Running would not save them from the lesson he planned to impart. "All ships pursue the enemy fleet," Admiral Valerius ordered, his voice cutting through the comms. "But do not destroy them all. We want survivors to carry our message back to their homeworlds. Let their fear be our shield." Captain Rojas's voice came through the communicator, a hint of grim pleasure in his tone. "Admiral, my kinetic pulse cannons are locked on their flagship. One shot will finish High Arbitrator Xylos." "Negative," Captain Valerius countered, his voice sharp and precise. "Wound the ship. Don't neutralize it. A vanquished arbitrator cannot spread fear effectively. A defeated one can." Admiral Jian Lai understood Valerius's strategy perfectly. The Sentinel Prime moved like a silent hunting shark towards the fleeing alien flagship. The Grand Arbiter was attempting to escape, its immense form sluggish, its engines visibly damaged from the engagement, plumes of superheated gas trailing behind it. "Jacks, target their engine section," Lai ordered. "Disable them, don't obliterate them. Let them suffer the indignity of being left behind." Weapons Officer Boomer Jacks aimed with calm precision and fired a single kinetic disruptor slug. The hypervelocity projectile struck the alien flagship's main engine, tearing a gaping hole through the primary drive system. The Grand Arbiter shuddered, then began to drift, unable to control its massive momentum, a crippled Leviathan adrift in the cosmic ocean. On the bridge of the alien flagship, High Arbitrator Xylos felt his vessel lurch and tremble as human weapons found their mark. His multifaceted optics burned with a mixture of rage and profound shame as he realized his mighty vessel was now utterly helpless, a crippled hulk awaiting its fate. "Damage report," he demanded, his voice a strained rasp. "Main engines offline, High Arbitrator," reported a terrified Viridian technician, antennae flattened against its skull. "Secondary power failing, we are adrift in space." Xylos looked at his tactical display and saw human ships, small but impossibly fast, circling his crippled fleet like predators encircling wounded prey. In 30 years of relentless conquest, he had never been in this position. The humiliation was absolute. High Arbitrator, Tactician Vrix said quietly, its voice devoid of all hope, a chilling echo in the silent command center. The humans are sending a message. A final, definitive message. Admiral Valerius's voice filled the alien bridge, speaking in perfect galactic standard, amplified across every frequency, broadcasting to every vessel that remained. High Arbitrator Xylos, this is Admiral Elias Valerius of the United Earth Federation. Your invasion force is defeated. Surrender now, and your surviving crews will be allowed to return home. Continue to resist, and your fleet will be completely erased from existence. Xylos's chitinous claws scraped against his command chair. Surrender. The word was poison to a warrior who had subdued 17 systems. But as he looked around his bridge, he saw only fear and resignation in the eyes of his officers, in the trembling forms of his crew. They had lost the will to fight. He had lost the will to command. What are your terms? Xylos asked, the words coming out like a growl of agony, each syllable a confession of utter defeat. Simple, Admiral Valerius replied, his voice unwavering, devoid of triumph, merely stating undeniable fact. You will return to your homeworlds and tell your leaders exactly what happened here today. You will explain that human space is protected by ships beyond your comprehension, by weapons beyond your defense. And you will make it unequivocally clear that any future aggressions against human colonies will result in the utter obliteration of your fleets. Your conquest ends here. Your terror ends here. The alien regent closed his primary optics, then opened them again, gazing at the tactical display as if seeing a nightmare made real. He was being forced to become a messenger of his own profound defeat, a living testament to humanity's terrifying potential. But the alternative was watching his remaining ships be extinguished one by one, watching his entire legacy crumble to stardust. I accept your terms, Xylos said, each word carving a wound into his conqueror's pride. Around the battle-scarred void, other alien commanders were making the same choice. The Crystalline Collective had already calculated that surrender was the only logical option. The Hive Queen was more concerned with preserving her swarm and her honor, such as it remained, than fighting a pointless, losing battle. Even the proud energy dancers realized there was no glory in pointless demise, only a humiliating end. Admiral Lai watched from the Sentinel Prime as alien ships began shutting down their weapons and lowering their energy screens, their defiant glows fading to somber outlines. The sight filled her with a quiet, profound satisfaction. Billions of human colonists on Earth would live, safe from the Mandate's tyranny, because 31 human ships had stood against 800 alien vessels and prevailed. Admiral Ensign Aris said with wonder in her voice, "I'm receiving surrender signals from the entire Cathar Mandate fleet. All species are laying down their arms." Kaito looked up from his science station with a thoughtful expression, a scientist's curiosity already replacing the thrill of battle. "Admiral, this victory will alter everything. When word spreads through alien space, every species will know that humans are not to be underestimated. Our reputation has just changed from quaint to terrifying." Lai nodded. The battle had been won with superior technology, audacious tactics, and an unyielding will, but the true victory was psychological. Fear of human capabilities, precisely delivered and relentlessly demonstrated, would protect human space better than any weapon for generations to come. Admiral Valerius's fleet began the process of cataloging the defeated alien vessels. Each ship was scanned, its design and capabilities documented. The humans wanted detailed records of alien technology for future reference and for defense. They would learn from their adversaries always. Admiral Lai, Valerius's voice came through her communicator. "Bring your ship alongside the alien flagship. I want you to personally deliver our final message to High Arbitrator Xylos. Let him look into the eyes of humanity's defiance." Lai felt honored to complete this pivotal mission to close this chapter. The Sentinel Prime moved slowly towards the disabled Grand Arbiter, its hidden weapons trained on the larger ship, a silent, deadly promise of what would happen if they ever broke their word. On the alien bridge, Xylos watched the small human vessel approach. This was the ship that had started his downfall, the single craft that had broken 5 of his cruisers and made his fleet afraid. Now, it looked so small and innocuous, but he knew the terrible power it contained. High Arbitrator Xylos, Lai's voice filled the alien bridge, calm and firm, imbued with the weight of Earth's defiance. "I am Admiral Jian, Lai of the UEF Sentinel Prime. You are defeated, but you are not annihilated. Take this gift of continued existence and use it wisely." "What message would you have me carry?" Xylos asked, his voice heavy with the crushing weight of his humiliation, his species' pride irrevocably shattered. "Tell them that humans do not seek conflict, but we will not shy from it," Lai replied, her voice resonating with an unshakable resolve. "Tell them that our technology grows stronger every cycle, and our determination never weakens. Tell them that human space is protected by ships they cannot imagine and by wills they cannot break. Remember this void, Arbitrator. Remember the screams of your fleet. Remember the 31 that made 800 flee." Xylos listened carefully, every word a brand upon his soul, knowing that these chilling words would shape the future of galactic politics for centuries. The humans were not just winning a battle. They were announcing their arrival as a dominant, formidable power in the cosmos, a force unlike any the galaxy had encountered. And Arbitrator, Lai continued, her voice dropping to a low, chilling tone, a final, unyielding warning. "Tell them that we remember our enemies. Any species that aggresses upon human worlds will face the full might of the United Earth Federation. We do not forgive, and we do not forget." The alien regent felt a profound chill run through his chitinous scales. The humans were not just strong, they were intelligent enough to wield fear as a surgical instrument. This defeat, this crushing, humiliating defeat, would echo through alien space for generations, a grim legend whispered across star systems. Over the next several hours, Admiral Valerius organized the withdrawal of alien forces. Each species was given a specific route home and warned never to enter human space again without direct invitation. The damaged ships were allowed to perform just enough repairs to make the long journey, but their weapon systems remained disabled. The Crystalline Collective departed first, their logical minds already calculating the dire implications of human technological superiority. The Hive Queen's ships followed, carrying news that would spread through every hive in their empire, of a foe against whom numbers meant nothing. One by one, the defeated alien species limped away from human space, leaving behind a field of wreckage and the silent, watchful gaze of humanity. High Arbitrator Xylos's flagship, the Grand Arbiter, was the last to depart. It had been repaired just enough to reach the nearest alien outpost, but it would take months to fully restore the immense vessel. Every cycle of those repairs would remind the crew of their crushing defeat. As the alien flagship disappeared into hyperspace, a haunting, silent scar upon the stars, Admiral Valerius gathered his fleet around Earth. The human homeworld was safe, and its billions of colonists would never truly know how close they had come to utter ruin. "Admiral," Captain Rojas's voice came through the communicator, a hint of weariness mixed with profound relief. "What do we do now?" Admiral Valerius looked at his tactical display, which now showed clear space in all directions, an empty canvas where a hostile armada once threatened. "Now, Captain, we prepare for what comes next. This victory will undoubtedly bring us new enemies, but it will also bring us new allies. Species that fear Cathar Mandate expansion will be eager to forge friendships with humanity. The galactic stage has just grown larger." Admiral Lai felt the immense weight of what they had accomplished, a deep, abiding satisfaction settling within her. The UEF Sentinel Prime had started this battle as an unknown prototype, a whisper in the void. Now, it was the ship that had announced humanity's undeniable arrival as a galactic power, the ghost that had made an empire tremble. Admiral Ensign Eris said from her sensor station, a wide smile on her face, Earth Command is requesting a full report on our weapon and engine performance. They sound very eager to start mass production. Tell them everything worked perfectly, Eris, Lai replied, a faint smile touching her lips. But also tell them we'll need bigger ships, more Sentinel-class vessels, and even better weaponry. Word of this battle will spread, and our enemies will come prepared next time. The galaxy just heard our voice for the first time, and it won't forget it. Humanity, heck yeah! Kaito was already analyzing the captured alien data, his fingers flying across his console. Admiral, we've learned more about alien technology and psychology in one cycle than we had in 2 centuries of peaceful contact. This information will help us stay ahead of potential threats. The age of human galactic influence has truly begun. The human fleet began its journey back to Earth, carrying news of a victory that would forever change galactic history. But they also carried the knowledge that this was just the beginning. Humanity had announced itself as a force to be respected and feared. But that announcement would inevitably bring new, unforeseen challenges. On worlds across the galaxy, alien leaders received reports of the battle with shock and disbelief. The humans, who had seemed so weak and primitive, had revealed technology that surpassed anything in known space. Emergency councils were called. Military strategies were revised. Some species began planning defensive alliances with this terrifying new power, while others considered whether humans might make valuable allies against their own ancient adversaries. In the deepest, oldest reaches of the cosmos, ancient powers that had slept for millennia began to stir. The sudden, explosive rise of humanity had disturbed the old, established balance of galactic politics. Change, profound and irreversible, was coming to the stars. And for the first time in an age, fear was spreading, not just among the remnants of the Cathar Mandate, but across the vast, slumbering galaxy. They had awoken something human,